You're watching the Original Music Atlanta podcast.
All right, here we are. We're back again, episode 3 of the Original Music Atlanta podcast. My name is Raymond Helms, and this is Rick Gathman. Sorry.
Hola.
I always say that.
That's all right.
And we tonight have the boys from Drive 22 with us, who will also be playing at the Original Music Showcase at the 10 High, March 12th, and they get to open the show at, I believe, 2 p.m. Is that correct, guys?
I think we're going on around like 12:50 to 1:20, I believe.
Okay, so it's afternoon. We're going to get that thing going on Sunday afternoon, March 12th with Drive 22.
That's cool. That's going to be a good good day of music.
I believe it will be 12 hours.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Of original music in Atlanta. So what we're trying to do is get as many bands that are going to be performing that day, on the show to tell a little bit of their story and who they are and where they came from and all that. So we always want to start with the name. Who came up with it? What's it mean? Drive 22.
Yeah, I'll jump in, guys, and feel free to add some color. So, hey, guys, I'm Jason, lead singer and rhythm guitarist for Drive 22. And this one was probably the most organic way a name has ever come up. I think if you look across the bandmates here, each of us, maybe me as the youngest, have 20 plus years of music experience. We've been in, tens, if not 15s of bands. And when you come up with a band name, it's kind of tough. And as we got together and jammed from the origin story, one of the things that came pretty apparent naturally, not talked about before, was, as we were jamming growing up and as we were in different bands where we lived, and Kevin and I are from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and there's a Highway 22 on there. And as we were talking about this, and I think we were talking to Chris and say, yeah, we used to drive 22 to go to this gig and that gig. And Chris goes, wait a minute, living in New Jersey, goes, I used to drive on Highway 22. And as we're talking, Frenk is like, you know what? Actually, in Macon, Georgia, there used to be a Highway 22 I would used to take to go to gigs and practice. And as we're like, oh, we all used to drive 22 to get to where we needed to go musically. And then I think, I forget who it was, but someone just kind of like, hey, wait a minute, this could be the band name, yeah, Drive 22. It has a 90s kind of flair to it, which I think we're all love the 90s music. And quite frankly, it just stuck and it means something to us. And every time I say Drive 22, it takes me back to all the bands and the music we've written and the gigs we've played. So it just has this like nice feeling to it when we say, hey guys, we're Drive 22 on stage and we get to introduce the band.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Obviously meant to be.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was going to say, and you said it's obviously that obvious that you more, I guess 90s is I'm trying to think of
the genre
or the genre thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 90s is more of the genre of music that you guys are going for. I listened to it today and I really like it, by the way.
Thank you.
I really like,
Howling?
What's the Howling song? Yeah, that's the one that I listened to that song 4 or 5 times today. That's really good.
Well, thanks so much. Yeah, I don't know how the other guys would respond. I love 90s music. Whether we're going for it or not, I think is up for debate. But I do think it influenced at least me and Kevin. And I think, there's some age difference in the band, which I think is wonderful as you think of the musical taste that has brought us all to where we are today. So I'd say 90s is definitely there. I think some others as well. I was a big Metallica head growing up as well. I don't think that comes through the music, but it might with a couple of the heavier riffs as we get some new tunes out. But I'd love to hear Chris, Kevin, and Frank kind of your thoughts on, are we a mostly 90s influenced band, or where would you guys say some of your tastes come through?
I think it's a lot of influence, but a lot of great bands, even from the 90s. I know Foo Fighters, some of the newer stuff they put out. We me and Jason love listening to that. Some of the newer bands like the Black Keys, big influence there. Yep. But strong influence, and I think it's really just been the combination of all these different artists that we've been playing and listening to for years, and it's just materialized into the sound. I don't know if it's a 90s rock band, but this is just kind of how everything's aggregated and come together. This is what the sound.
It's kind of bound to happen, I think, when you listen to a certain style of music, or if you just something moves you, you could end up with a whole different genre.
Yeah. I think also that's the beauty of being in an original music project is whatever you want to come up with, or however the style of music that happens to be coming out, it doesn't matter. That's the point, is you're making original music, go for it.
Right.
100%. I mean, everything from the Killers to even Coheed and Cambria to the Used back in the day. I mean, all of it. What's amazing, if you listen to a guy like Rick Rubin and some of these other guys, they'll listen to albums from way back when to now, and they're just looking for those moments that really are like, wow, they got the sound or the rhythm or the collective bringing together the instruments so right. Let's see, how did they do that? Let's deconstruct it, and how can we bring it into our project and get really influenced from the mechanics and the tactical things they did. And I think that's where Kevin and I geek out. We live in the same neighborhood, so we'll practice just acoustic wise, get together, and we'll geek out on some of those things, like really pulling the nuance out of some of these, not so much to purely just be influenced, but like, how did they do that? Let's break it down a little bit. I love it as a kind of a science, if you will, sometimes breaking those things. And then that turns into, wait a minute, what if we tried this? And then you get new songs, new rhythms.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah. That's, yeah. If you're not doing surgery on parts and ideas, then you're just kind of glossing over it. Well, rumor has it, Jason and Kevin, that you guys are brothers. So
that is the truth.
Who's the better brother? See what I did there?
I see what you
better
did.
meaning
So,
what?
Yeah.
I set them up for that, by the way.
Yeah. Their old band was called Better Brother.
Oh,
There's definitely a friendly competition. I don't know, rivalry is the right word, but between me and Jay, you can ask the other guys. I mean, we're constantly trying to see who could write the riff of the year.
Yeah.
Who's gonna get someone's head bobbing? Who's gonna get stuck in their head? Some lick or melody. But yeah, depending on the day, I don't know who's the better brother.
Yeah.
But we come back
and also, Chris and I have to be careful. Like if we say something like, "Oh man, that new song, that new riff you wrote, is excellent," you guys will look at each other and like smirk, like told you so.
Yeah, like who wrote it?
so what's the age difference between the two?
Yeah, that was my next thing too. Is like I've heard age brought up now 2 or 3 times. So obviously Jason's the youngest.
Okay.
Right, because he's bragging about his youthfulness.
That is true. I do want to hit on the competitive rivalryness. I think there is that, and it's what keeps us sharp and excited. But I would love to make sure it's known that I don't care who writes the riff, right? As long as it hits. I think that, and that's the cool thing about being a brother, bringing it back together. It's like, man, I could write the greatest thing on earth, but if Kevin adds a little tweak in there and he kind of brags, oh, I made it a little bit better, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm all in for it. And I think that's kind of one of the cool things of, understanding it doesn't matter where the idea came from, as long as the song is made for the listener, honestly, and for us to have some fun on stage, which, to your point, is one of the cool things about being an original band. We can do that.
Yeah.
That's when you have a good group of guys that you're playing with, because when Ray and I played together, it didn't start off right off the bat, but after a while he would mention things to me like, I like what you did there, keep it. And I won't know what he's talking about, of course. He'll have to explain it to me, which he's very well, versed in when it comes to drums.
I speak drum. Boo-da-ba,
yeah,
boo-da-ba,
bada-boom.
ba.
So yeah, I know that's a good point. Yeah, when you got a good group of guys that there's no egos, there's no we're all that's all in the past. You're good to go.
I know, Rick, I'm going to hear about it later that you were talking about howling the way you were, because that's when Jason started.
Good. I figured I was going to start some trouble somewhere. Yeah. I'm really good at that.
Well, it's funny. It didn't all start that way, guys. As you know, when you first come out, I mean, I've been writing songs with Kevin, man. So I'm 35 now. Since I was 14, got my first bass. I started as a bass player, writing tracks with Kevin. It didn't all start that way. And I'm sure Chris and Frenk have similar stories just going out. You want it to be your idea that you brought in. But when it becomes more about the idea than the song, you kind of get lost pretty quickly. And you learn that lesson pretty quick. I've got a couple riffs in my head that I'm hearing right now that I'm like, yep, that was not good, but I fought so hard for it. But now that call it seasoned, whatever, I feel like a cast iron that's been seasoned over and over again. I feel like we're ready to bring some good tunes in, regardless of the idea or who brings it. And I think when we get together up in Roswell, when we practice, Frenk and Chris bring such an element to not only the bass line, what they write, but how it then forms the song and how it changes when we get back into the ideation session. Like, man, what Frenk did or what Chris did with that rhythm of the drums, we've got to now alter what we did to make it sound all cohesive. And I think that's part of the fun, personally.
Yeah, it comes down to one word: collaboration. When we lose the ego and you can actually collaborate with people and understand, okay, yeah, that my part was great for another song, not this one, and being able to throw it away, that's the hardest thing.
Stick it in your back pocket. Yeah.
That's the hardest thing when you're younger. I think 35 is probably a good age to kind of say that's kind of where I kind of had to get to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Before that, it was.
I'm 54. I just got to that point last week.
It takes some of us longer than others.
What's funny is there's kind of the art and the science of it, right? So if you think of like, I smoke a lot of meat and cook a lot of food, there's the science of, hey, if you're going to do low and slow in a brisket, it's got to be between 225, 250, no matter what else you do.
Boom.
But the art of it is the rub and how, what kind of seasoning do you put on there? And I think we've hardened. And when we met Frenk and Chris, the science part was taken care of, the fundamentals, and now we get to play with seasonings when it comes to the songs, that I think makes it so much fun. Because if you have to go and explain fundamentals to one bandmate still learning, that's not a bad thing, but it does kind of, you gotta, hey, it doesn't matter where the idea came from, it's okay, guys, and it takes away from the time that you could actually be writing incredible tunes, or try to anyway. So
great point.
Hey, Chris Plant started talking to me about, hey man, I'm about to do, I think I found some guys that we're gonna put a band together and do an original band. And so obviously you guys are them. And I think Frenk is a close neighbor to you, Chris.
Yeah, we live in the same neighborhood actually, so we're not too far apart.
So does that allow you guys to kind of get together and woodshed together, or you just work?
Really, it was kind of, we kind of hung out more before we were playing as well. We both have kids about the same age.
Gotcha.
So they hang out and they would, they do activities in the neighborhood together, and, we'd see each other all the time, and it was like, we're always hanging out. We both wanted to be playing. Like,
what are you doing? Right?
Why are we playing?
Yeah.
Let's go try and find something. And when it came down to it, I've always been in original bands for probably 30 years. Every band I've been in, I think, had at least probably 40% of the material was their own.
Yeah.
And I almost got to the point I was going to kind of give up. I was like, I'm not going to find people who want to do this anymore. Yeah. And I was kind of going through the motions of trying to find different people and how to get out there, and I tried a couple different ways, and then I just somehow, Kevin and I kind of linked up and we talked a little bit, and then we didn't, and then we did a little again, and then it just kind of we're like, man, let's just get together and see what happens.
So that's what year was this? What year was this?
It was like I think it was around like September 2021.
Okay, so post COVID, post end of the world.
I guess. Well, I don't know what's the official ending.
I think.
Still kind of in it.
Yeah.
Completely past.
Yeah. It's been an interesting couple of years for sure. And Chris, so, Chris was just saying he was mostly doing original music as long as I know him. He was actually in Hope's Anchor with me for a while. And have you guys always done originals, or have you been in cover tribute band type bands as well?
We did. So Jay and I used to be a cover band. We did acoustic sets down in Buckhead. We were like a monthly gig, like a house band sort of thing, at a bar down in Buckhead for a while. off and on. I mean, it kind of ebbs and flows, but at the end of the day, we keep getting that itch to go back and, write.
I think it was the 20 gigs of just riffs and ideas on my voice memos on my phone that I was like, I can't get away from this thing. And it keeps growing. I was like, we've got to do something with some of this. And, you end up, music's one of those things that became a stress relief, and hey, get together with the guys, really enjoy it. And when it became, two times a month, we got to go play 4 hours from 10 to 2 in the morning. And, payment aside, it just became almost like a second job, which is okay. And I think some people love that and they go for it. And it started to lose some of the, well, wait a minute, how about all those originals? And it was like, I'm trying to come up with a good analogy of what it felt like, but we always drew back to some of the funner times, just writing our own tracks and then playing it in front of people always gave us a natural high that we wanted to get back to, where playing other people's stuff is fine. And we still do that, if the, for some gigs, they want, a couple cover songs, which we can put our own spin on it. But I think there's nothing better than playing your own stuff. And now we're at the point where we feel like we would just want to, push forward in that path as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's what we do too. Just throw a couple of covers in there, keep them the same, kind of along the same line of what you're doing. That's what we do anyway.
Well, the formula in my previous bands before Hope's Anchor, so they were talking about 17 years ago, we did a 70-30 type thing where we do 70% covers. We would totally debaucherize them and make them our own. And then we basically would steal a chorus and then turn it into ours. And then we would do 30% of our original music and just kind of fake it there. But yeah, it's always kind of been, it's tough. Being an original band is tough, especially now to get a gig if you're not doing
hard to sell. Yeah.
Stevie Nicks or, I got bumped. My Giza band got bumped for a Meatloaf tribute band.
Yeah, we did.
And I was like, he's got 2 songs.
But you know what? The show we did made up for it.
Yes, it did. But it's tough. So let's talk about the recording process. You guys, I think, just finished up a few months back a recording session. When you guys record, do you tend to try to capture it live, or do you do it piece by piece? How do you tend to record?
Yeah, I'll jump in. It's mostly piece by piece. So we'll get into a practice scenario where we're playing to a click track. We all feel pretty good practicing. So over and over again, everything is pretty set, and we feel comfortable. And quite frankly, and I think this is important for any other bands listening that maybe haven't gone through the process, play live a couple of times. Make sure you love what you're playing and it feels good, and you can get in front and do it. And I think that brings both confidence, but also clarity that, hey, this is the way we want to play it moving forward. And then we'll break it down that I think is pretty similar. We'll do drums in a studio setting. And Chris can jump in and elaborate, add some color there. And then we'll go into piecemeal guitars, bass, and vocals. And, we were chatting maybe a couple nights ago just about this exact topic. And it's funny how some of the bands used to do it to how we're doing it now. And it's honestly mostly at home with some decent equipment. We outside of drums, guitars, bass, and vocals. I transform our master closet into, the egg cartons. And I'm like, tell my wife, hey, I need the master closet for a couple nights, and get my TLM Neumann. So, invested in a nice mic and get in there and do what works. And then we work with some really good post-production mixers and mastering capabilities. So definitely piecemeal. And, I think though, starting with a strong understanding of what we want to play it live, practice it a good amount of times, it's not going to be a surprise coming out the other end.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Neumann, obviously a great pick on the mic. What DAW are you using, and do you guys use live amps? Do you use Kempers, modelers, profiles, or what type of stuff do you do there?
I'm not going to pretend like I know all those acronyms, unfortunately.
Let me explain them to you.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah. So we're just going through typically just GarageBand. We're at the end of the day with the vocals, with the guitars and the bass, and even, the drums, we're just trying to get a very pure, nice recording. and we work with a professional mixer and someone that does the mastering, but all they ever ask for from us is raw, crisp, good recordings.
Not too loud, nothing peaking.
Don't clip, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
You got it. So that we've just found a process we got amazing partners in like the studio that we do the drum recordings that's the one we're not going to mess around with. We know we have to go through a studio to get the drum tone, but the rest of it we got a good process with post and mixing at the end of the day.
So for vocals, just to kick in, I just use the Apogee 2 Duet 2, and plugs right in the Neumann, and it gives me that really nice sound. What's tough though is when I bounce out, I can't add any effects or whatnot because post production will do all that. So when I show the guys and it's zero effects or whatnot, it's tough to kind of see the end. But luckily these guys have done it a couple times and know that hey, whatever I send you is going to sound even better once they add in just basic reverb and choruses and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a trusting move to send raw. You must have good faith in your mixer for sure.
Absolutely.
So what about you, Chris? You and I know each other, I feel like, don't we? Have we met before?
Yeah, probably past. Kind of got a lot of the same friends, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And so what do you use when you record? Do you go electronic or do you use acoustics or you do both?
No, we did everything with live drums.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, good.
I know there's a lot of things you can do with electronics. I just never feel like the cymbals have the.
You never ever.
I just don't really feel it. I don't feel that comfortable on the electric ones. I mean, I know they come a long way. My electronic kit's probably about 20 years old, so I'm sure they're a lot nicer now than what I'm used to playing on at the house. But it's I just always feel more comfortable behind the acoustic ones.
Yeah, you can't replace just the feel alone. If that's what you're used to, especially older guys like us. I don't mind. That wasn't an insult. I don't think.
Truth hurts.
Yeah. So, I don't mind. Even live, we were talking about this earlier. I don't mind using the electronic drums live, and definitely for recording. But yeah, when it comes to the cymbals, they have to be real. Because you're never going to get the chokes, you're never going to get the rolls, you're never going to get the little quick
just the ambiance,
anything.
The bell.
Yeah.
So what kind of kit do you play?
Started getting into bigger cymbals than I was playing before, and I really kind of liked that. I think it's a good mix for the kind of music we do now. I kind of like that bigger, washier ride type thing.
Yeah.
I used to have like 16s and 18s. Now it's more like 18s and 19 crashes and that kind of stuff.
It's funny.
Pretty basic setup. Usually, I've really primarily been playing pretty much just like a 4-piece kit forever. I mean, probably since I moved to Atlanta for the most part. It's probably 20 plus years. It's what fits in the car now. So it's that's what it's going to be.
I'm the same way. All my crash. I think my smallest crash is a 19. They're all.
Yeah, they look like Captain America shields. Your kit. Frenk, bass. What are you playing? What are you playing live? What are you playing in studio? You using an amp or?
I was trying to do the same for both, and I just realized you can't really live. You can't not play through an amp as a bassist. I mean the amps, like the amp that I have, I bought, 22 years ago, and it's still a great amp. Heavy as heck, but my new speaker cabinet's way, way lighter, so it's okay. But recording, I can't really, I haven't figured out how to do it using my amp and like miking it. It's never sounds good. It's I really can't tune it in.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a kind of like a multi-effects bass processor that plugs into my laptop, and I'm super happy with that. I've got a couple tones there that I can consistently work with. And then the decision kind of becomes back to the old school do I play a 5-string or a 4-string for this song, or flat wound, round wound strings, and kind of the basis questions that.
Yeah. What type of bass? Are you a Fender guy?
I've got a Fender, more recently. Never been a Fender guy before. I've always played kind of like boutique neck through specialty wood 5 strings and things like that. And I've got a nice Padula it's like an 89, super old school, but got a great tone. I do have a Fender Jaguar that's got the PJ set up.
Is that a short scale? Is that Jaguar?
It's a regular scale neck. Yeah, it's a regular scale neck. And I got some flat wounds on it. And I'm trying to rethink my bass lines for most of our songs. And I want to start playing that one live because it's a heck of a lot easier to tote around a 4-string. And you can dial in a tone on a Fender bass. I mean, pretty much plug into any house amp and you're going to get a good tone. You know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing as far as what I've learned over the past probably 10 years is the preamp. I mean, shout out. We're not sponsored by them, but I wish we were. Tech 21. You cannot go wrong with any one of their products as far as a bass preamp. The bass driver, the black one that has a yellow writing on it, you can just plug and go. I use that at playing at a church gig. XLR out to the house and great tone right out of the box. And then these days we're using the Tech 21 Doug Pinnick preamp, and that's the same type thing. It's literally this big. It's got a tuner, compressor, everything. XLR out, done. You can go. There's a leg to go off to an amp, and then there's a leg to go to the house, and it's great tone every time. So if you ever want to come over here and try some of that out, come on.
Chris recommended that one. I think you guys, Harry, your bassist, Hope's Anchor, I think he plays one, and Chris was telling me, you got to try it out. So I did, and actually I bought one.
Oh, did you?
And I love it because it fits in my bass case.
And
that's it. That's all I bring to it.
Yeah.
It's really all I got to bring to a gig that's got a backline.
Yeah, that's sometimes that's the way to go. When you guys play live, are you all using click in ears, or are you just the drummers playing with click, or what are we doing?
Just the drummer, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's just me. I get the joy.
You get the joy of it, huh? Well, and then the big one is if you're using clicks, I guess you wouldn't be using any backing tracks because he's the only one hearing the clicks.
That's true. No backing track. That's correct.
Have you ever considered doing that, and if not, why?
I think it actually came up in conversation. I went and saw this band called Jim Cotta live, and I was looking around. I was like, "Where's the bassist?" Because it's clearly happening. So I got to hang out with the band after. It's like, "Yeah, our bassist got a real estate job during COVID. Just couldn't hang anymore." And it's like we've now gotten to a point where we use a backing track, but then it added so many elements. And I don't think we'd ever replace Frenk because you can't replace Frenk. But what I found interesting is, one of the things I love when recording, I call it my butter track, is I'll record a vocal track over the whole thing and just try to accentuate or add a little bit of flair or whatnot. And then, as a gift to the post-production, say, hey, if you can use any of this, ends up using it. And turns out good some of the times. It'd be cool to bring some of those elements in. I think in place of that, Chris and Kevin do a wonderful job on backup vocals, but it would be cool if we had a backing track just for harmonies across the board. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it would definitely fill it out, wouldn't it?
We'll just switch directions.
Switch directions?
Yeah. Am I hearing an echo? Okay. So what's the path that you guys are planning on? What's the plan of attack as far as getting shows, and are you going to open for nationals? Is that what you have? Do you have a booking agent? Do you have management? What do you got happening there?
Yeah, so I'll take this one, guys. Feel free to add some color. I think ultimately now it's about writing really good tunes. And I think if we have some really good music, which we're working on a third track right now, hopefully vocals this weekend. We've gotten some great drums and guitars done for that. And then we've got some songs in the hopper that we're pretty excited about that you'll hear on March 12th. If you guys are able to come out for the audience, we've got some new songs we're excited about. I think once we get to that 10 to 12, my idea is we get a solid album out there. And if we have some, great tracks that we're proud of, in parallel, and I don't think they're mutually exclusive, still continue to play out and continue to play in Atlanta, gigs like this, as well as others get to know some of the other original bands and try to stick together and get, in a cadence of at least one show a month, I think would be wonderful. In parallel, get to that 10 to 12 really good songs. And I think to get to 10 to 12 really good songs, you probably have to have 30 that you pare down to 10 and 12 that we feel really comfortable with. And that might take a little bit longer, but I think the guys in this band recognize what quality is, and we want to get there, and we don't mind the time that it'll take to get there.
I was going to say, so you're going to take your time with it, which is what you should do. Because the stuff that I've heard so far is just fantastic, and if you keep the course, you'll easily grab some shows.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thanks so much. I'd love to hear the other guys. That's kind of my take. We've talked about it a little bit, but I think that's kind of the MO at the highest level. But guys, if you want to add any color to that.
I think Jay got it. I mean, we all kind of walked in, had a pretty good conversation about where we all are in our lives with our families and all that. And, I think every one of us loves looking forward to that next rehearsal, absolutely circling the dates for the calendars. We love to get together and just play live. And really just for all of us, we're just having a blast doing it. So there's no, we have to hit this deadline. We have to hit this. It's been very organic so far. We absolutely love the tunes that we're writing. We have fun playing them. And so we're just going to keep rinsing and repeating till we hit some of these thresholds, like 10 to 12 really good songs. We're going to keep networking with the other bands in Atlanta and hopefully just keep playing out with them.
Yeah, that's pretty much why we're doing this podcast as well. And we want to continue to have original bands come on, talk about different stuff, and also get a network together of the different bands in town.
Do you have a website?
No website right now. We're focused on riding the rails of the social media platforms. I think it helps us. What's funny is Kevin and I, for work, we work on websites all day. So if we got to that point, we needed one. I think we're confident we could. But I think we find the shareability and the findability on social being probably our best marketing kind of aspect, because that's where all the fans are today. So I think we're meeting them where they are versus asking them to come where we are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good point.
Yeah, really good point. Which socials are you doing?
Yeah, we're on Instagram, Facebook right now. I think maybe the traditionals. We haven't gotten to TikTok, although we'd love for Frenk. A TikTok just focused on Frenk would be incredible. But maybe he could mention Drive 22. That'd be pretty sweet. No,
I can do the dances.
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram mostly. And that's kind of where we've hung out. We're open to others. I think we just want to kind of continue to grow organically in those spaces and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the whole TikTok thing. I do know that it's created attention spans of 35 seconds.
Right.
So putting out a long form 90-minute prog rock video laden show is a lot over the head of most attention spans for sure.
I think you're probably right about that.
What we're doing, but so where are you hosting? I think we have a song that's on YouTube. Are you planning on hosting your music on YouTube, Spotify, any of those types of things? What thoughts?
Yeah. So we've put some of the music on YouTube, but we're on all the major streaming platforms as well. So Spotify, Apple Music. You can hear some of the tunes. We've put some of like the lyric videos and that sort of thing on YouTube.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on some of those? Like Pandora's, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon. Here's just a couple of facts for you guys and people at home. This is great. So Pandora will pay you 0.00013 cents per stream. YouTube will pay you 0.002. Is that 0.002 of a cent? Spotify, they bring it on up. It's 0.003 cents, and Amazon pays 0.004 cents per stream. So I think everybody can do the math on that. You need 10 million streams to make $40.
Right. And what's the only way to make music or make money in the music industry?
Gigs.
Right.
And guess what? It's very difficult to get gigs in an original band. So
exactly.
What are we doing, guys?
This is why we're doing this.
Man, thanks for the data points. That is, I don't want to say alarming.
Useless information.
It's definitely it's one of those things where you kind of look at where music was, where I think the CD sales would pay back the label, and then you'd make your money from the gigs, and now it's completely changed. I would say we're grateful and lucky that this isn't the main income stream, I think, for the guys. Yeah. That being said, if you take the time, I think I had a post just talking about thanking everyone for coming out to our last show or whatnot. Like, please go see local bands, guys. Like, you don't understand, or maybe people do, and they come see, but if you don't, the time it takes to write a song and the amount of energy and emotion you put into that, and the collaboration, which is the key word you mentioned, that it takes, and keep getting together and refining and putting out that product, and maybe you change it, that takes a lot of effort and energy. And while I think the benefit for the guys in this band is that natural high you get on stage, that I don't think you can replace with anything, and that's enough payment. It would be nice to take some income and then put it back into, maybe the next time we go to another studio, we try something else, or it allows us to record not only drums live, but now we can do the whole band live. That'd be pretty cool. It allows us to experiment and A/B test different approaches for bringing music to life. And without that, it kind of comes out of pocket, which is fine. We're grateful to be in that position, but it's just interesting how, and I don't know, and I'm curious everyone else's thoughts, where do we go from here? Because I think Dave Grohl talked about, post-COVID, go see live bands. There's nothing like going to see your favorite band or a new band and experiencing that. How do you bottle that up and sell it in a 35-second TikTok ad? I just don't know how you do it versus just getting people out. So I'm curious where y'all's thoughts are, and where are we heading from here? We're going to keep trying and try to organically grow and network and do all the things we just talked about in maybe the last segment. But I'm curious, proactively, is there anything you guys are seeing that other bands are doing that are really helpful? Well,
I know that's again why we're trying to do something different with a podcast, or this is kind of what I envisioned we should have been doing during COVID.
Well, a lot of bands were, and they were doing live shows.
Yeah, playing live in their studios and stuff like that. But it's a tough direction. You talked about having another job, or your job in order to do this. My brother gave me one bit of advice many years ago, and it was the only good advice he gave me, and it was, don't quit your day job. And that afforded me the ability to, keep playing music for the reason that you said earlier about just circling dates for rehearsals is your therapy sessions for the week kind of thing. And that's kind of how I treat music these days. It's like, it's therapy. I got to get it out. I don't have a choice. I chose to be a musician, but I didn't chose to have the bug like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Other things you can do is, as far as what we can do, I think, to get this music out more is like Giza is gone, kind of rides Ray's other band's coattails.
Hope's
Anchor's coattails. Thank you. I was brain farting there. If they get a show, they've been around long enough, so they've got kind of a name for themselves and a following. And so places like Mad Life will throw you a bone, like on a Wednesday or a Thursday night. And that's a good way to get in and at least get heard by, whether it be 30 people or 150 people, and there's plenty of places around here that I think we can do that. There's 37 Main. It depends on what part of town you want to go to, or where, a lot of people don't want to go to those places, but
yeah, it's coming down to one idea that I have, Jason, is I'm thinking about teaming up with a like sounded. I'll go ahead and make the announcement.
Well, we had the same idea, I think.
Teaming up with a like-minded tribute band, because you remember back in the day, like early bands, Van Halen opened for Journey,
right?
Guns N' Roses opened for Motley Crue. You know,
Right.
these younger bands came on. So I'm thinking about teaming up with a good tribute band, Kansas, the Leftover band,
Yeah.
or
Candlesticks.
the Pink Floyd band, and opening for them in that kind of vein that it used to be. So you go to see a show, you get something new, and then you get something you know. That's the
I think
thought.
that's an awesome idea. That is a wonderful idea.
But I just have to pull it off.
Yeah, well, I mean, my other band, Say Never, opened up for Autograph, 6 months ago, whenever that was, a year ago,
Yeah,
just before Randy Rand passed away.
yeah.
And, you got guys like Scully Coley, who we're going to have on soon.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna have Scully on to talk about the show is coming up as well. But
I think he does a lot of work for local original music.
yeah. So, but I mean, I don't. That's a big question, Jason. That is a big question. That's the $100,000 question.
I've been wrestling with it, and I'm curious. And I, I've been in Atlanta for 10 years, 10, 11 years now. So I'm not a native, but been around. We've done cover bands. We've met some other bands, but a lot have faded. Has there been, in the last, call it 10 years, a band that kind of has hit more on a national scene that might bring some like, oh man, rock music coming out of Atlanta? Holy shit, right? Like those are the guys, or like there's something brewing in Atlanta. And I think there is, but I'm curious, and maybe a question for the group. I'm curious if anyone knows of a band that has kind of jumped out on a national scene.
Out of the Nashville scene?
Mastodon would be the only one I can think of.
I thought we were talking out of Atlanta.
Well, yeah,
out of Atlanta, I mean, you've got, depending on the genre, there's Seven Dust, there's Collective Soul.
There's some great ones.
Yeah. And then you got Zach Brown.
Zach Brown.
He kind of made it.
Fozzy. Well, not Fozzy. Stuck Mojo.
Yeah. But
all the guys from Megadeth. They all live close.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not that they were in Nashville, but yeah, I think just rebuilding the network of band camaraderie. And I've been here since '95 and played all kinds of shows down in Buckhead and venues that they just don't exist anymore. So, Music Midtown doesn't exist anymore. A lot of that stuff is Magruder's.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore. So it's the newer venues that we've already talked about, like the 37 Mains and the Mad Lifes and those type of venues. They are live music venues, but they are, like Curtis Clark was saying.
I was just getting ready to say, you got your clubs and then you got your venues.
Yeah. Clubs, they just want to have 50 people and have bar sales. And, the venues like Mad Life and they rely on ticket sales and, Slippery When Wet brings them in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if there was a venue that was a venue, not a club, and it just took all of the original music and just was an original music club, that would be an interesting angle for a venue to try.
You'd have to have a pair to try to take that one on.
Yeah.
But if we could get this mechanism for some of these bands that can, pack the room to just bring up some of these new bands, because it is. I mean, Jay's right. It's a challenge. Like you said, they'll throw you a bone. They'll give you like the Wednesday or Thursday night slot, but then you also have to do your best to bring a crowd out there.
Yeah, they leave it up to you to do your own ticket sales.
Yeah. And promoting and
promoting.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. I would,
Totally fair. I understand. It's just a challenge for a new band. Also, I mean,
yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, things aren't like they used to be.
Well, I think you guys are on the right path with jumping in on with the Scully the Scully bandwagon and network. There's going to be 30 bands that day probably, and the acoustic acts as well. I think that's going to be the best bet for just kind of making things happen down the road. So, but with that, the final question of the day. Knowing all of this and knowing all the numbers that Spotify pays and everything, if you had to do it all over again, would you do this whole thing as being a musician again?
It's in us.
100,000,000%. Absolutely. I mean, there's guitars on the wall, and so my wife calls it functional art. I call it, to your point, the therapy. I grab that guitar all the time, and 10 minutes turns into 2 hours. And when you lose that time and you get into flow state and you're just like, what happened? And you recognize is my hair okay? Is my, whatever, is my shirt all right? Blah, blah, blah. And you forget all that. It melts away. And all you're doing is this natural playing, something is coming out of you. Yep. And you write that riff of the year, which I did this year already, 2023. You'll hear it, a song we got called Americana. Kevin's shaking his head because he already knows it's going to be a rough year for him coming out with a riff of the year. But nonetheless, when you hit it and you're like, oh my God, and there's no one else in the room, and you still have this incredible joy and smile on your face, you're doing the right thing and spending your time on the right thing, because that next day, just a natural high all day for sure. So my answer is 100% yes, with some context.
Correct answer.
Everybody else? Yep. Thumbs up. Chris, you still in?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Frank?
Always worth it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reactivated a part of my brain. I hadn't used it in 15 years.
I'm going to say, yeah, you backed away for a minute and came back, right?
Yeah, I hadn't really played. I hadn't played at all live for like 15 years, like I said. And it definitely challenges you. In a good way, it just opens something in your brain. It just feels good, Yeah. I think anybody that has the time to learn an instrument should pick one up,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does do something for your brain. You were just saying when you pick up a guitar and you start playing, and I have an issue with my phone. I have to look at it like every 30 seconds, and if I'm going to miss something on it, and when I play an instrument, that is the only time I don't have that craving of my phone being, an addiction, so there is something to that for sure.
Maybe I'll teach my wife how to play a C, G, and E chord.
Yeah, cowboy chords. For sure. Well, guys, we look.
Watch what you say, man.
Yeah, we look.
Right.
We look forward to
edit it out.
seeing you guys at the show on the 12th. We're gonna do our best to get down there early. My band plays at 10:40 at night, so you guys are gonna be at the front. I'm gonna be at the back, and I hope to get down there earlier that day to check out your set. And feel free to come over to the lab here and make some noise with us.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it. That'd be awesome. Well, we're so excited to hear the rest of the bands. Thank you guys for doing this podcast. I think long form is the way. Thank you for doing this, and great conversation tonight. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Did we play anything?
No, I'll play. What I'll do is I'll play your song on the out of the show. All right, guys.
It's great talking to you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
When I'm playing alone and finish the I'll be the fellow that follows you to Mars. Drop my guard and raise that bar. Your loyal stagehand. Follows you to Mars. Drop my guard and raise that bar. Your loyal stagehand. I'll be the
You're watching the Original Music Atlanta podcast.